What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Panthers Advice. We're back, man. June, we took a little bit of we didn't take a break, but we put videos out a little bit less, right? Let us breathe a little bit, but July is coming up. Training camp is coming up. Unfortunately, fans won't be able to attend this year, but hey, at least we're going to get some footage. And next thing you know, August will be here, September, October, November, and hopefully we're still playing come January. But before we get to that point, let's talk about a few things real quick. Today we're talking about Greg Olsen, talking about Bryce Young. We're talking about that receiving core because whether you go to YouTube, Instagram, X, Twitter, right, everybody has opinions on the receiving core, especially a couple receivers. We're going to dive into that. And then we're going to talk about a top 10 list. Do I agree? Do I not agree? The top 10 Panthers currently on the team. Let's dive into this thing. So first up is Mr. Greg Olsen right here. Mr. Greg Olsen believes Bryce Young showed true colors after benching, making him excited for the 2025 season. Let's take a little bit more of an in-depth look at this right here. So obviously the Carolina Panthers were hoping Bryce Young would take that next step in his sophomore season, but it did not start that way that we had hoped in 2024. And I got to say, looking back, right, you saw 2023 ended, it didn't end great, right? I don't know why I expected 2024 to be, I guess, that much better, right? Bryce Young, he did his thing against the Jets in training camp, right? But he played what? That one drive against the Bills in preseason? One drive? And, here's the thing. They talk about you can't get in game shape unless you're playing in the actual game, right? No matter how much you practice, it's still not going to make you prepared for game shape, right? And I think the same thing goes with the offense, right? Especially Bryce Young being a little bit shorter, a lot of the throws and everything else, and it's not just him, right? It goes for all quarterbacks, but a lot of it's timing. And you got these receivers out there, you don't really understand the timing, right? And especially in a new offense. So I got to say, looking back, I'm not sure what I expected from Bryce Young, playing in one drive in preseason, but let's keep it going real quick. Goes on to say, much like his rookie campaign in 2023, Young was struggling to get anything going on offense, and the Panthers looked like they were headed for yet another failed year. Now, I'm not shocked, right? Because the defense was terrible, and so when the defense is bad, the offense is bad. The defense, or the opposite team, they get a lead, and now it forces Bryce Young and the Panthers to pass, and I think that's when everything got, I guess you could say, exposed, to be honest, right? Because when the Panthers went down by 10, 15, 20 plus in the first 2 weeks, you saw the offense. It wasn't there, right? No matter how good Chuba Hubbard was going to be, you had to start passing at some point, right? And that allowed the defensive line to tee off, and everything kind of went downhill. So after the first 2 weeks, right, Dave Canales made the call to bench Bryce Young, all right, in favor of the veteran Andy Dalton. But Young had two choices, all right? Either let this become his reality or continue to work. And I want to touch on that too. I know we're pausing a lot. But when Bryce Young got benched, I think when he came back, it was really a kind of best of both worlds, right? So let's be honest about this real quick. The Panthers organization has been ran terribly. No matter if you're the biggest fan or you're not the biggest fan, right? We all agree it has been ran terribly over the last 5+ years, right? So for Bryce Young, it was like, okay, hey, if I don't do good, I get traded to go to another team. Now, there's few organizations, all right, up until this past year that are ran as bad as the Panthers. Bengals come to mind. I mean, there's a couple other ones, right? But there's only a few organizations that are ran just as bad as the Panthers, if not worse, right? And so for Bryce Young, he came in like, hey, if I do my thing, great, I get the starting job back. If I don't, they trade me. Hey, I'm okay with that too, right? Hopefully I can develop in the next offense. So I think him coming back off the benching, it showed maturity, but you also have to look at it from the perspective of, oh, I get to leave Carolina, the team where quarterbacks essentially go to die? I get to leave that team? Hey, no pressure. I mean, if you think about it from that perspective, right? I do good, great. I do bad, oh well, I'm gone to another team. Hopefully, they'll plan their offense for me. So that's something else to think about. I know we're kind of jumping in and out real quick, but let's keep the article going right here. So as we keep the thing going, all right, Bryce Young chose the latter. It paid off despite the Panthers finishing just 5-12 last season. Young's second half surge has one Panthers legend excited for this season with him under center once again. It was just great for the entire organization for Bryce to take that leap after some early adversity. Greg Olsen told Fox News, all right, for him to respond, it says a lot about him. As Olsen reminds every football fan, if you don't have the quarterback position right, everything else is really challenging. Now, let's talk about something else real quick, too. Yes, the Panthers finished 5-12. You know, they won a couple games down the stretch. Bryce Young did his thing, right? The defense needed some work, and hopefully with the front seven additions, J.C. Horn hopefully healthy another year, Lathan Ransom, Damani another year in the system. You bring in Trayvon Mulrig. This team, and I don't want to give, false hope here, right? But this team has potential. Now, how much potential? We're going to see. The one thing that still scares me is how Aviro kind of plays. JC left, Mike J. right. I don't love that, to be honest with you, especially when you're paying JC all that money. But, hey, if Aviro can go back to his Denver Broncos days and that scheme and bring that over here this year, no complaints, man. So as we kind of talk about Bryce Young and those numbers he had, all right, 3-6, 1,800 yards, 12 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 60% completion rate. Now, there's a couple things to talk about right here. One, all right, Deontay Johnson was gone off the team, midway through the season. So Bryce Young didn't really have an explosive weapon. Now, Jalen Coker, he did his thing, right? But you didn't have that deep threat anymore. So he was doing that the last half stretch of the season without that true number one, without that explosive weapon, right? That's something to account for. The second thing is completion percentage. I don't want to say anything on that, but I think you have to look at that with kind of like a fine line, right? Because I think his numbers are better than that. Some guys just didn't catch the ball, struggled a little bit. So you would count those two things into that, 12 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, especially that, 5-6 game stretch towards the end of the season. Again, I got to say, there's hope this year, man. So to wrap up this thing, all right, I think for the Panthers going into this year, hopefully that continues to improve and they continue to build the roster around him. The Panthers did build the roster around him, drafting McMillan in the first round. All right, top receiver, pair him with Thielen and Leggett. Carolina is also taking a flyer on Hunter Renfrow. So that's going to jump us to our second thing we're going to talk about before we jump to the top 10 Panthers, all right, on the roster this year. So let's talk about Mr. Hunter Renfrow. Will he make the Panthers? I mean, I had to bring this article up because there's so many people talking about it. No matter which platform you go to, somebody's always discussing Hunter Renfrow. So let's jump into this thing real quick. So right here, basically the reader asks the writer, will Renfrow make the team? And, the writer's talking about this has really been something I've been most interested in since late April. All right, he goes on to say, oh, well, the Panthers are taking a chance on someone who hasn't played in a year and whose numbers dwindled a bit once he earned his second contract. My second thought, wait, didn't they just re-sign David Moore? So a couple things to address real quick. He wrote a great article. However, we have to stop looking at stats at just face value. Where was Hunter Renfrow? With the Raiders. And so earlier in this video, right, I brought up certain organizations that are almost ran worse or just as bad as the Carolina Panthers. You got to think the Raiders are up there, right? Now, maybe them bringing on Brady, maybe things will change. But as of right now, the Raiders, the Bengals, they both come to the top of my head, right? Just kind of as I'm doing this video. We can't sit there and look at Hunter Renfrow and say, oh, his stats dropped. What consistent quarterback play have the Raiders had ever? Maybe early 2000s with Rich Gannon? Derek Carr, I guess, right? Look at the throws Hunter Renfrow was getting on film before we go and say, oh, he got his second contract, he doesn't care. No. You see the way Hunter Renfrow plays hard in practice in April. A guy that falls off during their second contract because they got the money, they're not doing that in April. They're not doing that in May. They're not doing that in June. They're not doing that in July. That won't start till September. All right. Great article, but again, we got to stop looking at numbers at face value and go a little bit more in depth. I'm not saying you have to watch the film, But who's his quarterback? Who are the other receivers on the team, right? Did they produce too? How was the running game, right? How did the defense look, right? How did the offense produce? If the offense wasn't producing, the opposite team was getting a lead, that made it easier for them to kind of tee off, and then they were expecting pass, right? A couple things to think about. Let's keep it going though. So then he talks about, didn't they just re-sign David Moore? That's a good point. So are they the same? No, but are they one and the same in this scheme, right? And what I mean by that is essentially that's going to be your third down target on a hitch route, on an in route, out route. Somebody you need to get open in the slot. Moore, Renfrow, kind of the same guy right there. Not that they're the same receiver, but in a scheme, they're kind of going to play the same role. So as of right now, the Panthers receiver room is packed to the brim with players who contributed in 2024. The top 3 spots are accounted for. McMillan, all right, your 1-2, Leggett, and Adam Thielen. So that's essentially your 1-2-3. You could throw Coker in there, all right, depending your feelings on him. And then you see who's next, Mr. Jalen Coker. So he says, this is where things get kind of murky, right? Coker earned the most yards in franchise history for a rookie undrafted free agent last year. Moore was as reliable as they come in both special teams and as a wideout, and blossomed the same time Bryce Young did. The Panthers also drafted Jimmy Horn Jr., all right, and they have Kobe Hudson and Jacoby George too. And you got Dan Chisna, who showed up kind of the last few weeks. So the receiver room, and you add Hunter Renfrow on top of that, there's a lot of talent. All right, and that's good, because if you go back the last 2-3 years, you look at the receiver room, it's like, ugh, it wasn't complete. Like, you just kind of had guys sporadically in there. The receiver room to me this year, it looks talented at least, right? So let's take a look at what he says next right here. So right here, the writer says, I believe that Renfrow has an 80% chance of making the team, and by that I mean he has 80% chance of being one of the likely 7 receivers to make the initial 53-man roster. If we're going 7 receivers to make the 53-man roster, I got to say he's in there. Just one for a veteran presence alone, right? Somebody Bryce Young can rely on. I'm telling you, look at the numbers from Hunter Renfrow as his career kind of dwindled in Vegas. Yes, the catches, the drops, one went down, the other one went up. But I'm telling you, the quarterback play, it was bad, right? So then he goes on to say right here, just thinking big picture, the Panthers had a vision when they acquired Renfrow. If healthy, which he is, he's a receiver who can help this team. And not only help this team, but he can help out Leggett, right? He can help out McMillan. He can help out Coker. He can help out Hudson or George, depending on which one makes the team. Jimmy Horn. Renfrow and Thielen together can really kind of shape this young Panthers receiver core, if you ask me. So let me know your thoughts on that. Next up, we got ranking the top 10 players on the Panthers roster ahead of the 2025 season. This is from Jared with Panthers Wire. Now, I looked at this once. I didn't even really look at it. I grabbed 10, bang, made it a JPEG, 9, so on and so forth. I put the depth chart at the end. So we're kind of going through this together. I put this thing together like 2 or 3 days ago, just now getting around to it. So I don't know who's at 10, and I don't know who's at 1. So we'll see what happens. So like I said, I have the depth chart at the end to kind of go over, okay, did we miss? Did we hit? Let's take a look at number 10 right here. Number 10 is Tershawn Wharton right here. So it says soon after Williams shifted to New England. All right, Milton Williams from Philly, who was going to come to Carolina, and then his agent got more money from New England. He dipped. So what did the Panthers do? They went out and signed Tershawn Wharton to a 3-year, $45 million deal. So it goes on to say that, Tershawn Wharton has spent the last 5 seasons. He's a natural pass rusher. Having him at 10, do we agree with this? I don't know what else is in front of us, but I think if everything kind of pans out, him being at 10, I think it's fair, to be honest with you. I expect, big things from him this year. Playing the 3-tech, playing inside. And I'm going to say he's going to have his highest number of sacks this year. Playing next to Bobby Brown, playing next to Derek Brown. Knock on wood, bearing any injuries, right? I'm going to say he's going to have his highest number of sacks this year playing in the Panthers 3-4. Let's take a look at number 9 real quick. Number 9 is Iku. Oh, Boy, I got to see why they say this right here. So Iku has shined as a rookie in 2022, took a bit of a step back during his sophomore campaign. That regression, however, was a distant memory following his work this past season under new offensive line coach Joe Gilbert. We'll see what happens. All right, we'll see what happens. They made good points. 2022, good year. Took a step back, took a step forward. We'll see what happens this year. Hopefully, he takes another step forward from the 2024 campaign. Number 8 right here, Trayvon Moehrig. So, one of the biggest needs this offseason, even still to this point, has been the safety position, but general manager Dan Morgan and company took a nice step towards addressing it with the signing of Moehrig from the Raiders. Moehrig will be a chess piece for the defense, as he can be an effective coverage defender at the single high spot, roll down to the box, or mug a gap to take on blockers on the point of attack and stifle the run. All right, so let's talk about Trayvon real quick. Now, the safeties for the Panthers have really struggled the last few years, right? And, you could blame Avero for the schemes, the concepts, whatever it may be, or you can blame the players. And I think this year we're going to figure out, is it Avero or was it the players from the past? Because, they talk about you could put Trayvon in the box. Well, you're going to put Ransom or Damani over the top, right? And that's what we're going to have to figure out right here is, okay, if they're going to play over the top, do they know their assignments? Because that was the biggest thing last year is blown assignment after blown assignment after blown assignment, right? Or you got Woods playing single high safety, and it was a mess because he just wasn't fast enough, right? So Trayvon at 8, I do like it. I expected him to be 5 through 8, so I'm not mad at that one. Let's take a look at number 7 right here. Number 7 is going to be Damian Lewis. Him and Robert Hunt have completely changed the Panthers' offensive line. Him at number 7, I'm not mad at. I thought he might be at number 5, but left guard, 6'2", 237. He did his thing. Number 6 is Taylor Moton. Ooh, I'm a little bit confused on this one. All right, Carolina's Mr. Consistent. Moton has remained one of the 10 best right tackles in the game. He'll rarely miss a rep and has proven to be an above-average blocker in both the passing and running game. I don't know about putting Moton ahead of Lewis, I want to be honest with you. That seems a little crazy. Maybe I'm missing something, but putting him ahead of Lewis, I don't know. Number 5 is Bryce Young, and they say right away. All right, it might be too bold to list Young as a top 5 player on the roster. Now, here's the thing. It could be an undersell, to be honest with you, depending on how the offense kind of shapes this year, right? He's either going to be number 5 or he's not going to be a top 10 player at all. Right? I think that's kind of how I see it. Because even if the run game is primarily the dominant part of the offense, he's still going to be 5, I think, if he has a good year. Now, if it's a pass-heavy team, if Dave goes back to his Tampa days, then Bryce Young could be in that top 2, top 1. But even if it's a run-heavy offense, Bryce Young will still be 5. It's just a matter of, can he make the passes he needs to make when it's time to make them? So number 5, I'm not mad at, right? You had to be kind of bold with this list, so I'm not mad at this one. Number 4 right here. Chuba Hubbard. I thought he might be 2, maybe 1, maybe 3, but number 4, okay. I got it to who number 3 is, right? Because we're putting Chuba at 4. Who is number 3? Robert Hunt. I'm not mad at that because without Robert Hunt and without Damian Lewis and that kind of the same thing I'm about to say, right? The example I'm about to give, without them, I don't think Chuba can do what he does. So putting Robert Hunt there, I'm not mad at per se, right?